Rama Magic. Magic is ritual. No.
I'll take care of it.
No, you can.
Hare Krishna! Welcome to Jimi Hendrix Central. Welcome to 26 2nd Avenue, the birthplace, the sacred birthplace of Hare Krishna in the West. This is such a small storefront, isn't it? We're crowded in here, it's a little hot, we got the air conditioners going, some of you can feel it, some of you can't. But from this humble beginning, a worldwide movement was launched. It's kind of mind-boggling when you think about it, that this person came from India, 69 years old, just about 70, came to New York, didn't know anybody, came alone, virtually penniless. We say he came with 40 rupees, which he did, but we don't realize that you couldn't exchange rupees for dollars at that time. So he came penniless and created a worldwide movement. And because of him, and because of his influence on them, and we'll get to them a little bit later, these men and women right here, off to the side, Prabhupada's disciples, you and I are in this room now. Our lives have been touched, our lives have been changed, our lives have been enhanced, our lives have gained purpose like they've never had before. The ultimate purpose in life we've been exposed to because of Prabhupada and because of these people here that we've come to hear from today and all week long. Welcome to day 3 of the ISKCON 60 celebration. The first two nights were spectacular. This night promises to be spectacular, and we're going to build and build and build. We're going to do we're going to have Srila Prabhupada lead us in a kirtan in just a couple minutes. After that, we'll hear from our guest speakers, and then we'll watch a video over here from one of Prabhupada's disciples who couldn't be here today. And then we'll do some announcements, and then prasadam will be served for all. Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So to get things going, I would just like to ask Vamanadev Prabhu, would you singularly come up here, please? Okay. We're going to hear from Vamanadev pretty soon. He was initiated here in 1968, correct? Would you please do the honor of Government and Srila Prabhupada? Jai. Okay. We have some garlands for other disciples here. Prasadam garlands. In case anyone here doesn't know some of the Sanskrit lingo that we just kind of throw around here, prasadam means mercy. It's a gift. So these garlands have been offered to Srila Prabhupada. So they are infused with his mercy, actually. It's a spiritual potency. So one who wears these garlands gets that mercy directly. That goes not only just for garlands, flower garlands, but also food. We offer the food to Krishna, to God, and then receive God's mercy in that way.
make it special.
Thank you.
Okay,
You can pass it on.
very good. All right, so now, without further ado, do I have more ado? No, I think that's without further ado. Yeah, we're going to listen to a very special kirtan. Srila Prabhupada leads us in kirtan. This kirtan was recorded in this room in 1966.
Wow.
So you can imagine how potent it is. So it's about 10 and a half minutes long, and it was so early on that his students that were here with him did not yet know the Panchatattva mantra. So Prabhupada will chant that by himself 3 times, and then he'll launch into the Maha Mantra, and then we can all join in singing. And if not everybody's familiar with that Maha Mantra, it's right here in the green sign here. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This way everybody can participate. So since it's such a special time that this was recorded, let's really try to focus in on Prabhupada's voice. Prabhupada was a pure spiritual devotee of God, of Krishna. So let's try to leave the distractions behind and really focus in on his transcendental sound vibration, the transcendental sound vibration of his voice, and get the most out of it for ourselves and each other. Thank you.
Adideva.
Hare Rama Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. जय परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य सतर सतस्नान भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय, नामाचार्य शील हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय, वृंदावन धाम की जय, नवद्वीप धाम की जय, समवेत भक्तवृंद की जय। All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Pramanande Hari Hari.
Srila Prabhupada ki. Okay. It's time for the nectar to increase. We'll start with a couple speakers. Let me just get their bios. Who am I kidding? I'm old. Well, I'll go with the printed sheet. Okay. Thank you. You're so short, no? I've always been short, Prabhu. Okay. So we're going to start off with Vamanadev Prabhu and Adideva Prabhu. Vamanadev, let's start with Adideva actually. He was initiated in 1971 by Srila Prabhupada, studied sculpture at the University of Texas, and when he first met Srila Prabhupada in 1971, Prabhupada asked him if he could create deities of Krishna. And he spent the next several decades of his life doing just that. He was the lead sculptor, co-founding artist, and director of the Fate Museum. That's first American theistic exhibition, which was established in 1977 under Prabhupada's personal guidance. The museum featured immersive dioramas depicting Vedic philosophy, teachings from the Bhagavad Gita. Vamanadev Prabhu was initiated, as I said, in 1968, right here at 26 2nd Avenue. He lived here. I'm going to say that one more time. He lived here for a year. He used to sleep right there, where Aditya Mataji is there. He started the St. Louis Temple, headed construction of the temple and housing of Gita Nagari from 1975 to 1980. He lived and worked at the new Taliban farm in the 1980s, worked as an exhibition specialist at the Harvard Art Museum in the 90s and the University of Mississippi from 2000 until his retirement in 2014. Both Adideva and Vamanadev Prabhus are currently renovating the Fate project, yes? Yeah. So they're bringing that back to life. And speaking of renovations, for the last few years, they've led the renovation team here to recreate the decor and atmosphere of 26 2nd Avenue, the sacred birthplace of Hare Krishna in the West. It was the vision of His Holiness Radhanath Swami. And he definitely wanted Adideva Prabhu to be in on this. And Adideva Prabhu said, well, I'm not doing this without Vamanadev Prabhu. And the two of them led a stalwart team in the renovations of this place. So please take a moment just to look around you right now at what this place looks like, and welcome and express your appreciation for the Deva brothers, Adideva Prabhu and Vamanadev Prabhu.
It's wonderful to be here, and even better than being here is seeing y'all here. That's the real glory of 26 Second Avenue, is bringing new people in, getting to hear the stories, the histories of this humble beginning, and this is like a seed. Can I tell my little story?
Sure.
Okay. Anyway, as a sculptor, my wife and I created a series of dioramas after, working on other projects, including Fate. And we would come up regularly because my daughters had an apartment here in Brooklyn. And we'd stay with my daughters, and the weekend of the Rath Yatra, and we'd go down early in the morning on Saturday and set up our displays and then just nonstop preach, man, all day until the sun went down. Man, it's amazing. You New Yorkers, you're the best, man. I always got questions and just fun. So anyway, we were here and we were staying a little bit longer. And the day after Rath Yatra, as most of you know, there's a big hoop-de-doo at Skimmerhorn. So my wife and I are walking up the street through the Skimmerhorn Kirtan and Feast that Sunday. And here comes this car. It comes right up to us. And then out the back door pops Radhanath Swami. And he walks right up to me. I knew Radhanath Swami slightly, but he said, Adideva. Well, he was talking to both of us, and he said, I want you to help me reconfigure or back configure this space. It's a holy space. It's not being used, and we need to bring it back to life. You know? So anyway, we were both just like, whoa. And so we got a key from the devotees over at Bhakti Center and came in, and the place was, there's a hill here of wood from the leak in the ceiling and, a few other obstacles. But because I had done these dioramas and had them at the Rath Yatra, I was able to bring the changing bodies over here. And I thought, I'm just going to put it right in the window, And we went out and bought some lights and we lit it up, and then we went and bought some curtains and we put some curtains behind it and to the side. And then we went down to a printer and we got some nice prints of Prabhupada. We put them in the window. And we were just, trying to figure this whole thing out. And then I went and bought a tape measure, and we measured every square inch of this space and kind of noted that. And then because I was still trying to make money to support my family, I kind of forgot it for a year or two until a Rath Yatra in Philly, where we were doing the same thing. And Radhanath Swami comes up to me and he says, can you come sit underneath this tree? I want to talk to you a little bit. So although I had forgotten, he had not forgotten. And so anyway, that was the beginning of my involvement. And then we have down in Alachua, that's in Florida, and if y'all are ever in Florida, come to our temple in Alachua. It's a little blurb advertisement. Lots and lots of devotees down there. So in Alachua, we started seriously thinking about and putting together a plan, and I had started this men's group there, and one of the men's group members was a fellow named Vamanadev, and from that men's group I learned that he had worked on museums, and I knew that he knew construction. He was very level-headed and very grounded individual, and so I asked him one day, if he'd help, if he'd be a partner in this. And so that's that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Thank you.
That's the truth and nothing but truth.
So help you God. Well, I was to continue the thread. You know, I was asked by Adideva Prabhu to help in this endeavor. And what I bring to the table in this is I want to give you some background of 26 Avenue in the early days when I was actually living in this environment, this temple. It was obviously very early. It was only a few years into the movement. There were at that time several temples. I came from the Montreal temple. That's where I joined in '67. I joined only in the sense that I started going for a period of 6 months to do some research on this new Hindu temple up in Montreal by my professor at the University of Vermont. So he told me about this place, and I walked into this place in Montreal and was up 4 flights of stairs in a bowling alley. And as I walked through the door, I saw a lot of sheets, and I saw this one rather slight gentleman. His name is Shivananda. I found out later. Then I didn't know what he was. He was shaved head, and he had his hand in this bag, and he was mumbling, walking back and forth. He didn't even see me for the first 2 or 3 minutes, and I was just standing there. And once he recognized me, he came to me and said, "Oh, can I help you?" And he said, "Can I help you?" And I told him, I said, "Well, I'm here doing research on a Hindu temple. Am I in the right place? This looks a little different than I expected." And he says, "Yes, this is the Hare Krishna temple." And I said, "Well, what are you doing?" And he said, "I'm just chanting the names of God on these beads." And having a Catholic background, the idea of prayer beads, rosaries, whatever you want to call them, they're the same basic principle is worshiping in a regulative and a kind of a regulating way. So I understood that. Then he mentioned something else. He said, "Do you want to see God?" And I said, "Well, I don't have anything else better than that on my agenda, so I'd love to see God." And so he opens up one of these sheeted areas, and there's Lord Jagannath. And he did his dandavats, and but my tradition, I genuflected and did the sign of the cross, because if it's God, it's God, At any rate, he offered me at that point, "Would you like to have some prasadam?" And once again, I asked him, "What do you mean by prasadam? What is prasadam?" He said, "It's sacred food." And I said, "Oh, like communion?" And he says, "Yeah, sort of like communion." Yeah, because he had some idea of what I was talking about. So he offered me a chapati. And, I was thinking he's going to give me a little wafer or something. So with this chapati, I said, "Boy, you guys do it big time. You got the big time." So anyway, I hit it off really well with him. We had some serious arguments about spiritual life over the next 6-8 months, to the extent that I decided that I wanted to join the ashram. But I wanted to go see Srila Prabhupada first. I wanted to visit. I had written Prabhupada. The letter had not been returned yet, so I didn't get a return until I had actually left Vermont, and this was in January of '68, and came to the front door here and was met by Brahmananda, who knew I was coming. Jai. Now this is my godbrother, Jai Dvaita Maharaj. By about 5 minutes. We were initiated at the same time. But I love to see you here. It's great. Now I don't know what to say. But anyway, so we had a discussion about the importance of a guru, of a spiritual master. And so I decided to come and join the ashram here on my way to see Srila Prabhupada. As I walked through the door, Brahmananda met me there and told me, he already knew I was coming. Shivananda was the one that had corresponded with him and told him there's this young boy, or at that time I was 19. He said he's coming and he's been attending, yada yada. And so I was able to just move right in. And right about behind outside this wall is where I parked my sleeping bag at night, and we rolled them up and put them back here. There were probably 20 people here at that time, more or less, because there was a little turnaround. But that was in January, and now to tell you some more ideas about the early days. When Srila Prabhupada was in the back room one time, there was a difficulty with the drainage. He couldn't use the facilities because it was the drainage. So I went out into the yard. I was always curious, and I had some construction, but not much at that time. I started digging in the courtyard and found out what the problem was, and I was out there digging, and devotees came up to me and said, "This is Sudra work." This is in Sudra, for you individuals that may not know what it is, that means you're just this is labor work. You're a Brahmin. You're a devotee. You don't do this kind of work. And then Prabhupada was up there, and he was up in the back room, and he said, someone went up to him and said, Vamanadev, or Bob, was out there digging in the ditch, digging down there, and he said, "That's all right. He's serving his spiritual master. Leave him alone. Let him do it." So I was vindicated, and we fixed the problem. It was fixed. So some of the other things that happened in the early days, we were very very focused on trying to keep the flow. When Srila Prabhupada would come in the morning, oftentimes in this area the door was left open and people would be sleeping in this area. So as temple commander, I was supposed to go out there and remove the people that were sleeping. And just to give you a framework of this area at that time, it was very it wasn't gentrified, or it wasn't upper class. It was very rundown. But at the same time, Prabhupada saw the tremendous potency in having his own spot. And this area, this temple was the first place where we actually had a place. And by that time, it had been here for a good year before I moved here. But at least this was the first, and this will all be addressed by people that were actually that were telling the story about the actual incorporation and when that happened and how that happened. But my experiences here were that it was a very, very active and loving community of devotees here. Brahmananda was definitely the spiritual lead, and he was the temple president at that time. And when I wrote Srila Prabhupada that I was going to visit with him, by that time that I got the response where he told me, "Yes, you can come," Brahmananda had gotten all my Laxmi, or my money, because they needed it to pay the rents and stuff like that. And so when Prabhupada heard that, I wrote him back and said, "I can't go, I'm broke. I've given my money," and then he told Brahmananda to take care of that boy. But he also said that learning from Brahmananda is the same as learning from me. So he says, and then the next word in the letter, he said, "But anyway, you can come when you later on. I'll be there in a few months, and I can initiate you at that time," because I was already asking him if I could become initiated. And that was, he did come in April, and I think April is when we were initiated. And so that's some of the highlights of the initial times I was there. I don't want to take up any more of my 15 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever.
You still good on time?
Okay. I could open up if you have one, or anybody has a pertinent question. Otherwise, I can just tell you some more stories. Or, yes, in the back, in the red. Go ahead.
One question. Where is there the Radha Krishna Murti, or the Murti that you see when Srila Prabhupada made this facility, there was this murti of Krishna.
I've heard this before, and just to give you some idea of what is up here and why it's up here, is because we're absolutely certain, because of visual documentation. And this is the way you do it. Now, if we had the visual documentation of another murti being here or another thing being here, especially in that area, because that was designed as a museum. This area is a recreation of the actual space as it was in '68. But just understand that this is a period of about 3 years, and there are multiple, every few months, there were multiple changes being made. So, you know, it's impossible to have every representation in such a small space. But we did the best we could. Thank you. We actually have photographs of 1967, 68, and then the pictures of what it is now, and you'll see many, many of the same original pictures, or facsimiles thereof. So we did as much as we could.
Prabhuji, how many people took prasadam daily, and of what did prasadam consist?
Well, it was simple rice, dal, and chapatis. Very simple prasadam, and there was probably anywhere from a dozen to 20, 21, 22. You correct me, Maharaj. It wasn't overcrowded, but on Sundays it was very crowded. On Sundays they would just spilling out the doors. But there were several householders in the area that were living outside. Not several, but there were a few. Hansututa, Hemavati, and I think that was it. The only ones I knew, but I was only here for a year, so I don't know if there was a few more earlier, perhaps. But I was here for all of '68. But by that time, this place had been in existence for a good year and a half, 2 years.
Brian and Joyce got married when I got initiated.
Yeah.
They were there. And then it was
Yeah. Yes. But that was all later. Yeah. Yeah. It was a small, very intimate crowd. And
Stories about the baptisms, using Prabhupada's baptism.
well, that was there's some stories. I don't have too many about that because I didn't use it. I splashed in the sink. I wasn't the upper crust, so I was down here. I was the very I was Bhakta Bob. I was just wandering around. Yes, you had a question. Venu Manari, Hare Krishna.
Was anything ever stolen from this space, and how did you get it back?
I'm afraid someone would ask that question. I'm gonna give you a very simple rendition of that because it was very difficult to in a mixed crowd to do it. But anyways, we were on Sankirtan, and this will be my last thing because I think I'm running out of time. So I'll have to cut it short. You can see me later. But we were on Sankirtan. It was late at night when we got back, 9 o'clock, and the building had either been left open or someone jerry-rigged and got in. And they took the vina, they took the woolen sack, reel to reel, and anything of any value. And we didn't know who it was. But Brahmananda was furious, and he said, "Get your karmi clothes on," and that's get your jeans on, and get out of your dhoti and get your jeans on. We're going to go find out who did this. So I don't know if you know Pinky in the Brain, but I was just a little guy, and he was the big guy. And so I followed him out the door, and this is like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, and he's going all over the Lower East Side into vacant buildings everywhere. He's asking all these people that I would never go near. But anybody that he braced, they just said, yes, sir, no, you go over here, you just, I saw them there, he got information. I don't know how he got it. But he got information, and we went to this apartment building. This is not in Brahmananda's memoirs because he was not. They called it out. I'm the only living person that knows this story, so I can say anything I want. But what happened was he walked. We were on about the 4th floor of this rundown apartment building, and this kind of really spaced out lady, probably in her late teens or 20s. And another guy that was really strung out came in the door. And Brahmananda told the lady, get in this room. And he told me, he says, you make sure she stays there. And he took the guy, and he just kind of gently threw him on the ground. And, kind of persuaded him in ways that were very effective to say that he actually committed the crime. And he told us where the things were. So we got the convict right there. We had the perpetrator right there, dead to rights. So what do? We just wrapped him up in telephone wire and tied his hands behind his back and marched to the precinct. And we were marching into the precinct. We've got a criminal, and we walked right up the steps, and we got arrested. So Brahmananda and I went to jail. The guy said he didn't know what in the world he was arrested for or what he was stopped for. We didn't know who these guys were, and he was so strung out they couldn't even hear. He wasn't even coherent. And we got out by Mangal Arti because Brahmananda knew a lawyer, and we got out on bond. And they were supposed to be a hearing in 3 or 4 days, and the guy he probably didn't even remember what happened, so he never came to the hearing, and all the charges were dropped. And we did get some of the stuff back. We got the Vina back, we got the tape recorder, and a few things. So his information was correct, and we did get some of the things back. So that's the story. There's other details I'll leave out for now. Talk to me later.
Vamanadev and Adideva Prabhu's ki. Thank you very much, Prabhu. It's very nice, very nice. So could everybody just inch up a little bit? We're getting more people coming in. And so if you could all move up maybe a foot or so, half a foot, we'll be able to have more people coming in the back. Thank you. That's great. So Vamanadev Prabhu, you tied him up with a telephone wire. Okay, so 60% of the audience will have to Google what telephone wire is, and then you'll find out.
It was all over.
We don't want to incriminate you.
Right. Okay, so I'd like to call up Adarsi Prabhu. Adarsi Prabhu was initiated in 1974. Moved into the Henry Street Temple in Brooklyn in 1973, and then was initiated the next year. In 1976 in Vrindavan, he requested and received Prabhupada's permission to open a temple on Long Island. In 1977, he married Janani Devi Dasi in front of Brooklyn's Radha Govinda deities when they were at the 55th Street Temple. In 1980, he opened another Long Island temple, an absolutely 100% controversy-free center in Freeport, New York. He recently became a trustee and treasurer of ISKCON Inc., Srila Prabhupada's original ISKCON Corp. Do you mean to say the first time Prabhupada registered ISKCON, it was called ISKCON Inc., and now you have that domain?
International Society for Krishna
Consciousness Incorporated. Very good, and now you've got that. Thank you very much. Please welcome Adarsi Prabhu.
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashtatade Shatarine. So it's very humbling and miraculous for me to speak here tonight in front of all my senior god brothers, god sister. Coming here and hearing the tape of Srila Prabhupada chanting. When Prabhupada, virtually his disciples didn't know anything except the Hare Krishna mantra. And we hear the pure and 100% faith of Srila Prabhupada in the holy name. I was speaking several weeks ago with one of our god brothers who is part of the property trust committee, and he let me know that currently ISKCON has 1,200 43 temples worldwide. So, for those of us who, by a miracle, met Srila Prabhupada and were engaged by Srila Prabhupada in his mission, from such a small, humble beginning to what it is today, is really an incredible experience. So, I'm going to tell you today a story about the first time I met Srila Prabhupada. This was in 1973. So at that time I was 18 years old. But I had been meeting devotees for years because my brothers, my friends, we were big music fans who were always at rock concerts at the Fillmore East and the devotees, it seemed like as a religious principle, they had a chanting party at every rock concert and devotees distributing books. So I had become a vegetarian actually before I met the devotees because I became interested in yoga. And when I received Back to Godhead magazine, I remember the first book I received, pamphlet, was The Transcendental Teachings of Prahlad Maharaj. When I was done reading that, I said to my brothers, I believe everything in this pamphlet. So some of our speakers already have, shown the deference which is required, for our senior godbrothers. So 1972, 1973, Pancharatna Prabhu had a Krishna club in my high school because one of my brothers had visited Henry Street and been convinced by Pancharatna Prabhu to have a Krishna club in our high school. But I had never been to the temple. And in November 1973, this younger brother of mine said, okay, our sister's visiting, you have a car, you have to take us all to the Sunday feast. So we went to the Sunday feast, and I was overwhelmed. So that night, Adideva Prabhu, some of my devotees may know, he was Bhakta Alvin. So we sat together, and he said, so you have to come back, you like it? You got to come back tomorrow. So I came back the next day, and that day, Adideva said, so, how many rounds do you chant? So I said, what are rounds? He got me a bead bag, he got me some beads. He said, so you get up early tomorrow, and you chant 16 rounds. So the next morning I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I chanted 16 rounds. So after another few days, so then I came back the next day. So then I started inquiring about moving in. But at that time, the movement was exploding. There was even a book written by a professor called The Hare Krishna Explosion. So many people wanted to join the New York Temple that it was the policy of the New York Temple that you could not join. The policy was that you had to come every day for 1 month, starting at Mangalartik, and do service the whole day, leave somehow or another at 9 o'clock at night, and come back the next morning for Mangalartik. So I was living on Long Island. I had a car, and I was able to persuade our temple president, Gopi Janabalma, to let me come at 7. I said, okay. So that time, our Sankirtan leader was Ramapad Swami, and he really liked that I had a car. So every day when I came, I had to drive out a book distribution party. And somehow or another, I was selling more. We were selling large Krishna books. And somehow or another, I was selling more Krishna books than the devotees I was driving out. So at the end of that week, Ramapad Swami, about 9 o'clock at night, at that time he wasn't a sannyasi, he was a brahmachari. Anyway, he said, so tonight, when you go home, bring your stuff when you come tomorrow. So I was confused because I knew what the policy was. I said, you mean, I'm telling the story wrong. First he said, your spiritual master is coming in 3 days. He said, when you go home tonight, get your stuff, bring it in the morning. So I was confused. I said, well, you mean like enough to stay for a few days, and see Srila Prabhupada? He said, no. After tonight, you're never going home again. So I came with my stuff. Gopi Janabal asked me, well, I was 18 years old, just a foolish boy. He said, what do you know how to do? I said, well, I painted houses. He said, okay, you're going to paint Srila Prabhupada's quarters. So if you look today at Prabhupada's room at 305 Skirmahorn Street, that's how we painted it. Myself and one other devotee, we painted Prabhupada's rooms all fresh. So when Prabhupada was arriving, hundreds of devotees came from all around North America because Prabhupada, the movement was exploding. Prabhupada was initiating devotees by letter. They'd never even seen Srila Prabhupada, and they were initiated. So the temple went from like 100 devotees to 250 devotees overnight. Prabhupada said, okay, I was going out with devotee Tirthapad, was the leader of our book distribution party. He'll be in charge. You'll take him. And his brother actually was also named Ramabhadra, the first Ramabhadra. So they got in my car, and we're driving to JFK to meet Srila Prabhupada. And while we're on the Van Wyck Expressway, the muffler falls off and is dragging on the road with sparks flying. So I pulled over, and I was completely bewildered. I said, we have to call a tow truck. Tirthapad jumps under the car and kicks the muffler off. He says, get in the car and drive. So I was a little confused. He said, don't worry, everything is purified on the way to Krishna. So we got to the airport, and Prabhupada arrived in the International Arrivals Building at that time. And there was a huge kirtan. So there was escalators coming down in a big common area, and there was a huge kirtan. The local authorities had never seen anything like it. They didn't know what to do. They didn't say anything. So there's a huge kirtan, and Prabhupada came from the second floor down an escalator. And as soon as I saw Srila Prabhupada, I saw that his body was glowing. Srila Prabhupada had an effulgence. So I was amazed. Prabhupada came down the escalator, and there were a whole bunch of reporters and TV cameras there. So at that time, their story was, this Indian Swami is brainwashing young people. So that was the angle. That's why they were interested. So Srila Prabhupada came to the middle of the room. Somehow or another, I was standing next to Radha Vallabha Prabhu, right next to Prabhupada. And a reporter came up, a very good-looking young TV reporter, and he said, so, how are you persuading so many young people to give up everything and join your movement? Srila Prabhupada said, young people in America are joining our movement because at the present time, they are simply swimming in an ocean of nations. So, of course, Prabhupada spoke like a professor, and the reporter didn't know what Prabhupada had said. So Prabhupada, by mystic genius, immediately turned the reporter into somebody who had to inquire submissively. So he asked Srila Prabhupada, what do you mean? Then Srila Prabhupada very lovingly and expertly explained how we're not the body and how we can never be happy within the material world. And the reporter was really, as my godbrothers can attest, Srila Prabhupada wanted to win over your heart that would be more or less irresistible. So the reporter he started asking very respectful questions to Srila Prabhupada. Then he paused. Then Srila Prabhupada said, "So, why don't you join us?" The reporter took a beat. He mumbled a little and he said, I can't. And Srila Prabhupada said, "So why not?" And the reporter said, "I guess I'm just swimming, simply swimming, in an ocean of nescience." So at that moment, Radhaballabha turned to me and said, "Did you hear that? Did you hear that?" Then Prabhupada immediately turned and walked. We had a big black limousine the temple had rented for this big occasion. Prabhupada walked so quickly that even though Prabhupada was exactly 60 years older than me at that time, we were running to try to keep up, try to catch up with Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhupada got into the limousine, then we all had to race to our cars because we had to get back to the temple, 439 Henry Street, before Srila Prabhupada arrived to have a giant kirtan outside the temple. So hundreds of devotees outside the temple. Prabhupada came into the temple. Prabhupada, as always, offered full dandavats to Sri Sri Radha and Govinda. Then Prabhupada sat down on the Vyasasana, it was roaring kirtan. Then Prabhupada indicated, to end the kirtan. Then Srila Prabhupada looked around and said, "So, this is not Brooklyn. This is Vaikuntha." So, I think I should, time-wise, how are we doing? Few minutes. So, at that time, we had 80 brahmacharis living in the temple. And further confirmation that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the leader of the Brahmacharya ashram, is with us today, His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami. Who taught us the real meaning of brahmachari life. In his words, brahmachari means celibate scholar. So the standard of scholarship, of study, of the brahmacharis at 439 Henry Street was outstanding. We used to have contests, myself and Harikesh Prabhu, who could memorize the most verses. This was the kind of things that we were doing. So the last thing I'll say is that I was very fortunate to join at that time because the GBC was only formed in 1972. And by the time I joined, the GBC members were really still unsure what their service was. So the ISKCON that I was able to join, that was Srila Prabhupada was the manager, the worldwide manager. So when we, I don't want to take too much time, I don't want to scare anybody by describing the actual standards of the Brahmacharya ashram at that time. But let's just say there was no hot water in the building, to give you some idea. And that was by design. That was by design. So, but also because a hot shower for a brahmachari is sense gratification. I hate to quote you back, Maharaj. So that was a very special time, but it's amazing that Srila Prabhupada, even after the time I joined, Prabhupada still kept increasing the standards within ISKCON and within the temples. As we heard earlier, for that kirtan, Prabhupada's disciples did not even know the Panchatattva Mahamantra. So Prabhupada was growing a worldwide movement with very, very new devotees, spreading that movement all around the world. Prabhupada was a spiritual revolutionary who was able to simultaneously educate his disciples, help his disciples to advance in Krishna consciousness while expanding this movement all around the world. So that brings me back to my opening comment. It's a miracle to be able to sit here today with you, place where Srila Prabhupada was. Came and started alone. And today we have 1,243 temples all around the world. Thank you very much.
Way to give him a little extra time.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing. This is such an honor to be here with everyone and hearing these wonderful stories. I wonder, what did it feel like to have Srila Prabhupada look at you and talk to you? What was the feeling that came up?
She's asking, just for the people in the back, what was it like when Srila Prabhupada looked at you and talked to you? What did you experience in those moments?
Srila Prabhupada instructed us that one should always feel a complete fool before one's spiritual master. And I can say that as someone who was 18 years old with absolutely no education, no qualifications, that when I spoke to Srila Prabhupada personally, I was shaking like a leaf. So to offer any kind of personal service to Srila Prabhupada, I felt very, very concerned to not perform any offense, any aparad in Srila Prabhupada's presence. So in 1975, I was the new Sankirtan leader of the New York Temple. And so some younger devotees were coming up into the management. The new head cook was Adideva Prabhu, and the temple commander was Vipramukya. So we heard in the so Srila Prabhupada was coming to the Philadelphia Rath Yatra in 1975, July. So Gopi Janabal, our temple president, called me into his office. He said, "You're making such nice advancement. That's why we decided that you'll stay behind to take care of Radha and Govinda." And they, I believe they rented some school buses to drive all the devotees. So every devotee in the temple went, except myself, Adideva, and Vipramukya, the new younger devotees coming to the temple management. So we were concerned. We wanted to be with Srila Prabhupada. So after we got this news, at that time, Harikesh Prabhu was traveling Srila Prabhupada as his servant. And we were all brahmacharis together and slept on the floor next to each other. So I spoke with Adideva and Vipramukya and said, we got to call Harikesh. We got to ask him what to do. So I called the Philadelphia Temple, person-to-person collect, and he called back. So we asked him, what should we do? He said, you have to do whatever your temple authorities tell you to do. He said, but you just make an arrangement with Gopi Janabalba that as soon as the Rath Yatra is over, the pujaris have to get in a car and drive as fast as they can back to Brooklyn. And then you'll have a van, and you can immediately leave that same night and drive to Philadelphia. He said, I'm Prabhupada's servant, and I'll make sure you get personal association with Srila Prabhupada. So we drove at about 98 miles an hour. And we got there that night. And of course, the temple was packed. So Hari K said, okay, you go tomorrow morning, you're going to go on a morning walk with Srila Prabhupada. He said, but. So at that time, the Philadelphia temple was in a different place. It was on a residential street, which was very long. So he said, you park the van just past the corner, going towards, we were going to one of the large parks in Philadelphia. So devotees from all around the country, the only thing they wanted to do was go on that morning walk with Srila Prabhupada. So right after Mangal Arti, the temple emptied out. The devotees ran into all their vehicles waiting for Prabhupada to come out of the temple. So there was the car of Prabhupada, and then traveling with Prabhupada at that time was Vamanadev Swami and Swarup Damodar Prabhu, who was in a sannyasi at that time, and some other temple presidents. So they came out, they got in maybe 2 cars, and then behind them was a van. So they got down to the end of the street, and then the van turned and blocked the whole street. So all the devotees in all those cars could not get out and could not follow Srila Prabhupada, I think Fairmount Park. But we were waiting right after the end of the street. So we joined the line of the cars, and we got to the Fairmount Park. So in the park, of course, we were standing in the back. We didn't want to be noticed by Ravindra Sarup, of course, was the temple president at that time, and we didn't want to get chased out of the morning walk. But Swarup Damodar Prabhupada was debating with Swarup Damodar non-stop for like 1 hour. And they were talking, although we were, as I mentioned earlier, we were serious students of Prabhupada's books, we had no idea what they were arguing about. They were arguing about all kinds of scientific principles and the underlying philosophy behind it. Nobody knew. Only they knew what they were talking about. And Prabhupada encouraged Swarup Damodar to argue with him very vigorously. This was not like a calm conversation. So this went on. So then that ceased, and Prabhupada stopped walking, and Brahmananda said, Prabhupada, I have a question. What does it mean that the spiritual master is not an ordinary man? Srila Prabhupada said, it means that he is not moved by these rascal scientists. Then we keep going? 2 minutes, all right. Every 2 minutes, I got 2 minutes. So then that afternoon, there was, Prabhupada was having darshan in a large room. And of course, that was by invitation only, but Harikesh got us in the back corner. So Srila Prabhupada was sitting behind a low desk, and on one side was the Sanskrit expert Nitai, and on the other side was Harikesh. And they had some kind of Sanskrit reference books. And each Prabhupada was interacting with different guests, and Prabhupada would be quoting from all over different Vedic literatures. And as soon as Prabhupada would quote in Sanskrit, then like in a commanding voice, like a military commander, he'd turn to them and say, now find that verse. And they were furiously trying to find all the different Vedic references that Srila Prabhupada was making. So Prabhupada was demonstrating there for those of us who might have thought we were intelligent how vast Srila Prabhupada's intelligence was. Then there was a devotee there visiting from Washington, D.C., but I don't recall his name, and his parents came with him. And Ravindra Sarup was very interested because Ravindra Sarup was very involved with Ivy League type preaching, and the father was some big muckety-muck at an Ivy League school. So they came in, and Prabhupada insisted that everyone sat on the floor, but Prabhupada insisted that 2 chairs were brought in for the mother and father. So right away, the father tells Srila Prabhupada, I'm an atheist. And he was laying out his philosophical basis, for being an atheist. The mother was very, very charmed by Srila Prabhupada. She was obviously so thankful, to see her son, how happy he was, and how kind Srila Prabhupada was to them, and everyone else. I think she said something like, everyone has to sit on the floor but us. And, she really was being charmed by Srila Prabhupada. So a philosophical exchange began between Srila Prabhupada and the father. And this went on for a while. Then Prabhupada quoted a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam that anyone who thinks he is this body is no more than a cow or an ass. So Prabhupada quoted in Sanskrit, then Prabhupada translated. So then Prabhupada smiled and said to the man, so what does that make you? Before anyone could say anything, the wife said, he's a foolish ass. Okay, so although there's more even to that story, we'll have to stop here for time, but I just wanted to give you a little window into the genius, the unlimited genius of Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much.
Adarsi Prabhu ki jai. Thank you so much. Wonderful stories. Wonderful stories. Sorry. Oh yeah. Sorry. If there's any gaps, can we just move up a little bit more? I mean, you guys are, I think, okay here. If you could just fill in the gaps a little bit. We still have people coming in who want to be able to hear. So if you can scooch up just a little bit, so it's maybe a little uncomfortable, but not too much. Not terribly uncomfortable. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Okay. Laxmi Nrsimha Prabhu, you're going to take us home tonight. He's initiated in 1974. He served as temple president in Florida, Puerto Rico, New Jersey, where I met him. And I remember when I first met you, I was this long-haired actor, and Mahamuni introduced us. It was like after hours, after the program, and you just sat and you told me all these stories. You were so real. You were so relatable. And you had a history in the music business, and I was really into rock and roll, and you had all these very cool stories. Which, no, that's not for tonight. Next week, come back for the rock and roll edition. And also at New York at 55th Street. Also as executive director at Bhakti Center, our own Bhakti Center, and contributing a significant amount of service here at 26 2nd Avenue. He's well known for his sweet kirtans. And in fact, I'm sorry, but I have to tell this story. When he was leading kirtan for Srila Prabhupada one time, Prabhupada asked a disciple, who's chanting? And they told him it was Laxmi Nrsimha Prabhu. And Srila Prabhupada said, that boy has no envy in his heart. Please welcome Laxmi Nrsimha Prabhu.
I'll make it.
Hare Krishna. It is quite an honor to be here in the presence of Srila Prabhupada, in the manifest mood of 26 2nd Avenue and millions of obeisances at the feet of Adideva and Vamanadev Prabhus for bringing it to life in this extraordinary manner. Because I forget the date, maybe Jagannath knows, when we got it back for the second time?
1990.
Okay, in 1990, I'm known for making friends with kind of odd people. And there was this really eccentric antique dealer on Atlantic Avenue at that time, Atlantic Avenue wasn't what it is now, and there was a lot of funky stores there. I forget his name. I could see his face, kind of scary, but I could see his face. And he told me in one of our conversations, he said, you know, the original building that your Swami had, do you know you can get that building back? Because we lost it. When did we move out of here?
Late 69.
Late 69. So for 1969 onwards, it was whatever. And, you know, different stores had come and gone. And this man told me, he said that I know, because it was, again, an antique store, kind of a funky antique store. And he said, I know the guy who has the lease to this, and he wants to get out. He's not making any money in that storefront. He wants to go to another place, another location, etc. I said, really? So I told Ramabhadra, and Ramabhadra and I ventured here, and we opened the door, and it was kind of funky. The boards were all coming up, and you know, you really couldn't see much because there's a lot of junk in here. They call it antique dealer those days, but it was really junk, dusty junk. And anyway, we walked up to the gentleman, and he knew we were Hare Krishna. It was hard to hide our identity. And I said, I spoke to such and such, whose name I can't remember. And he said, you might be interested in giving up this place. And he said, yeah, I am. So we had several conversations with him over the course of a brief amount of time, and we ended up getting the place back. By Krishna's grace, we ended up getting the place back, and then we started programs here. And I had the distinct privilege to, it was about a year I was here?
Yeah, maybe a little more.
A little more than a year, we were doing programs here. And so why I went into that is just to thank Adideva and Vamanadev, because when I walked in here, the mood, you know, Prabhupada, for me, was all about mood, his mood. When anyone ever asks me, what is ISKCON, I say the mood of Srila Prabhupada. It's not brick and mortar. It's mood, Prabhupada's mood, because the way he treated us was so extraordinarily loving, you can't imagine. Just having, and I'm part of the wave that Adarsi and I came around the same time to ISKCON. And I also had an experience in the Henry Street Temple, and with Pancharatna, actually. And he told me I could stay in the halfway house. And I said, no, thank you. and then when he showed me the ashram, I said, no, thank you, too crowded. I ended up joining Radha Damodar Traveling Sankirtan Party with Vishnu John Swami. But I have immense respect for those devotees in New York at that time because they did so much kirtan. But anyway, Prabhupada is the mood, the loving, I call it relational absorption. When you are with someone who is with you, how many of you had that experience? You don't really get that experience so much when you're with somebody, yeah, they're talking to you and pulling out the cell phone, especially now with all of our weapons of mass distraction, right? Everybody's always distracted by cell phone and whatever. So to be with someone, and that someone is with you, that's an extraordinary experience. And I'm kind of like a social person, a social butterfly. I like to meet people and hang out with people, much to my wife's chagrin. She said, you're always talking to people. We're on the beach, you're talking to people, wherever we go. So that was very important to me, the bhava, the mood. And when I had the opportunity to meet Srila Prabhupada, and I'm going to tell you about my last meeting with Srila Prabhupada. And the reason being, it's quite the mood of ecstasy and agony for me and for many disciples, because it was right before Prabhupada left this material world. I'm going to tell you about that because that was the nail that sealed my coffin of material existence, to be in the material world. Because I came to ISKCON, Krishna Consciousness, I started chanting in 1972, and it took me a while, till 73, when I met Vishnu Jan before I joined, actually moved in, became a brahmachari. So it wasn't a whole lot of years that Prabhupada was present with us at that time. And this tier of devotee, like Adarsi and I, who came in the early to mid 70s, we didn't get a whole lot of personal association with Srila Prabhupada. We got some association. So, you're always thinking about it. Do I want to stay in a devotee in this and chanting Hare Krishna? But this event in my life was the nail in the coffin of my material existence. And why? I was temple president in Puerto Rico. We got the news that Srila Prabhupada was gravely ill, and he wanted all of his disciples to go to Vrindavan and spend time with him. So we were a small temple, didn't have much money. One gentleman was kind, he gave me a donation so I could buy a ticket to go to India, and I went to India, October 19th, 1977. Flew to India, got there, greeted by, when I went into Prabhupada's house there, greeted by Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and he said, Tamal and I traveled on Radha Damodar, so we were good friends, and he said, I want to say to you that Srila Prabhupada has been gravely ill, and I don't want you to be shocked by the way he looks. He's emaciated. So I was bracing myself to meet Srila Prabhupada, and I went in. I went there having been one of these middle-tiered devotees with not a lot of personal association with Srila Prabhupada. I went there with these 4 cherished desires. And I was praying to Krishna Balaram, Radha Shamsundar Gaurnitai, how is it possible that these desires can be fulfilled? And the 4 cherished desires were this. Number 1, I wanted to taste prasadam that Prabhupada had tasted from the lips of the pure devotee. Number 2, I always admired the devotees who were able to personally massage Srila Prabhupada's body. Number 3, I always wanted to chant for Srila Prabhupada one-on-one, personally, just me and him. And the 4th one was, I always wanted to have this intimate, personal darshan. So I came to this situation with those desires just swelling out of my heart, not knowing and not even expecting any of those to be fulfilled. So I get a petition from Bhavananda. Bhavananda says to me, Laxmi. He didn't call me Laxmi, he called me Lucky. Because in Bengali they say, I guess, if any of you are Bengali, they say Loki. So he would call me Loki. Loki, would you like to chant for Srila Prabhupada? What? He said, yes. He says, we're having a 24-hour kirtan for Srila Prabhupada, and the spot from 12 midnight to 3 a.m. is open.
3 hours.
Huh?
3 hours.
3 hours. Just me. I said, are you crazy? Of course I am. Yes. He said, okay, it's going to be you and Prabhupada. It's going to be 12 midnight to 3 a.m., so you have to do very quiet kirtan, because sometimes I can get rather excited, I guess. Quiet kirtan. Just you and Prabhupada. Small kartals, no wampers, no mridanga. I said, okay. I go there about 11:45, I'm preparing myself, I'm praying to Krishna, oh please I don't want to make a stupid mistake. And I go in there, and Prabhupada is lying on the bed, and his head is facing towards me, and I'm kind of behind him. And I start chanting. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. For 2 hours, I'm chanting like that. And then I don't know what possessed me, but you know, ISKCON, as Maharaj so nicely wrote in his book, ISKCON went through a lot of trends in terms of kirtans, and we're still experiencing that ride. I started chanting this mantra that became popular at the Brahma Bole Chaturmukhe Krishna Krishna Hare Hare. I didn't get to that part. I got to Brahma Bole Chaturmukhe. I thought Prabhupada was sound asleep. His arm went up like a traffic policeman. And he literally sucked the air out of my lungs. I could not get another word, another Brahma Boli or Panchamuki or Rama Rama or nothing. I was frozen. Prabhupada's hand was up. It was actually his left hand. And it was up, and it was just like that, powerful. And Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And I didn't dare deviate, not even in my mind, from that melody and the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So I'm testimony to the fact that Prabhupada was very concerned about our kirtans. The second time, I was just chanting there, and next to Prabhupada's bed. Maharaj was there, and Prabhupada was translating, and I was just sitting there chanting, and then Bhavananda comes up to me and he goes, "Would you like to massage Srila Prabhupada's feet?" Are you crazy? Of course. And he let me go there, and I started massaging Prabhupada's feet. And I could never imagine, in my wildest imagination, and I have a pretty wild imagination, the softness of someone's feet. I could not imagine that. And I started massaging Prabhupada's feet, and they were so soft. And I was just thinking to myself, how is this happening? First I'm doing kirtan. Now I'm massaging Prabhupada's lotus feet. And then, that's not the end of it, folks. Tasting prasadam from the lotus lips of His Divine Grace. There's a little courtyard in Prabhupada's residence. And you have to go into the courtyard to get to the kitchen. And I knew Nayana Baram, who was bringing Prabhupada his prasadam and taking the remnants and bringing it back into the kitchen. So I'm calculating, how do I intercept Nayana Baram at the right time? So I'm waiting in the courtyard, and I'm chanting and chanting. Nayana and I are friends. And he comes out. Prabhupada wasn't eating much at that time at all. I mean, he was hardly eating. We're talking about late October, early November. So Nayana comes out, and he's got this dish, and he has this little plate. It was mango ice cream that the devotees had made for Srila Prabhupada. And they had given Srila Prabhupada a little taste from a silver or gold spoon. I don't remember what it was. And Prabhupada tasted it like that. And Nayana comes out with the mango ice cream. And I fall at his feet. I say, Nayana, please. He said, what do you want? I said, I want that Maha from Srila Prabhupada's lotus lips. He said, wait here. He goes into the kitchen. He comes out with, you know how in India they have those little clay pots, right? He comes out with a clay pot filled with the mango ice cream. desire number 3, right? First, the chanting, me and Srila Prabhupada. Secondly, the massaging of his lotus feet. Thirdly, tasting Mahaprasadam from the lotus lips of a Mahabhagavata. The fourth one, does anyone remember the fourth cherished desire? Private darshan. Now, I was like, I wasn't a big devotee. I didn't have a lot of personal association with Srila Prabhupada. I had done some little service. I thought that would be an impossibility. My GBC at that time was Adi Keshava. And Adi Keshava comes and he searches for me and he comes out and he said, Srila Prabhupada wants to see you. And I was like, what? Prabhupada was very weak. He was using the totality of his energy just to translate. And I said, what did you just say? He said, Prabhupada would like to speak with you. Yeah, I'm coming. I'm coming. And the bed was here. Prabhupada was so weak that the devotees had to move him. They had to kind of roll him over. And he was facing me, and his face was like that far away from my face. So you asked the question, what was it like looking at Srila Prabhupada? It was heart-melting. It was stunning. You were stunned because it was a face of love and compassion. And how many people do you see with that kind of face in this world? So Prabhupada said, so, Laxmi Nrsimha, tell me about your service, he said. And I was just like so excited, I could barely, blah, 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 blah. So I said, well, I'm Prabhupada, I'm temple president in Puerto Rico. Oh, and what is your temple doing? So I told him everything. We're doing book distribution in the airport. We're going out on Harinam to the barrios. We're distributing prasadam to people. We're getting a great reception. Even people in Puerto Rico who are not known for becoming, moving into the ashram or starting to move into the ashram. And Prabhupada was listening and listening. I said, Prabhupada, you please come to Puerto Rico because I know you like Hawaii. When you go to Hawaii, I've heard that you really like that weather and the fruits and flowers there. I said, Puerto Rico is just like Hawaii. And Prabhupada said, I will come to your East Coast Hawaii. And I was like, oh, thank you, Prabhupada, thank you. We'll make all preparations for your recuperation, etc., etc. And we spoke a little further. That was the nail in the coffin. I wasn't going anywhere, folks. No matter what proposition my mind would make, I had that moment in time, that experience in time to look back to. That darshan with that person who gave all of his energy to serve Krishna and to educate others worldwide to serve Krishna. That was an amazing experience. So when I went back to Puerto Rico, Prabhupada had departed. I told the devotees there, Prabhupada promised he would come to Puerto Rico. And they were saying, no, Prabhupada would have come. So it's not the end of the story. That was November. In January, settled in, living with the trauma of the departure of Srila Prabhupada, I get a phone call from American Airlines. We have a wooden crate here for you. I said, for For me? Yes. There's a wooden crate here for your pickup. And I asked the devotees. We didn't have a lot of devotees there, and I was the temple president, so nothing was ordered without, my permission. And I went to the devotees. Did anyone order anything? We have a crate. No, we didn't order anything. Let's get in the van, go pick up the crate and see what it is. Get in the van, go down American Airlines, we pick up the crate. It was actually a wooden crate, about, maybe 2.5 feet by 2.5 feet square. Really well constructed. Bring it up to the temple room, get the the pry bar, take off the lid. There's all this packing. Move the packing, and I see a head. We pick it up. It's a Murti of Srila Prabhupada. It's the first Murti that ever was made, and it was made during Prabhupada's presence, because there was a disciple of his that was having difficulty, and he begged Srila Prabhupada, I'm having difficulty, I know by remembering you, I will overcome the difficulty. And Prabhupada gave him permission to have this Murti made. It was white marble. Still in the Puerto Rico temple, some 46 years later, being worshipped very nicely. They added Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and it's a beautiful, beautiful Murti of Prabhupada. So I realized Prabhupada kept his promise. And 2 weeks before that, it's kind of an addendum, 2 weeks before that I had a dream. Like some devotees have dreams of their spiritual master all the time. My wife's always having a dream of her guru. And I'm like, I am so envious of you. I didn't have many dreams of Prabhupada, but I had this dream. Prabhupada and I, and this is prior, keep this in mind, prior to the Murti coming, and I didn't know the Murti was coming. The dream was Prabhupada and I were on a japa walk, circumambulating the temple, because in Puerto Rico, the temple is on a peak, a mountain peak. And down further a little bit is a road that goes around the temple. Nice circular road. So the dream was Prabhupada and I were on a japa walk, and we were discussing Puerto Rico and the plans for expansion in Puerto Rico. And I'm looking at Prabhupada and I said, there's something not quite right, kind of subconsciously. Prabhupada was very, very pale. He was very, very light, like the color of the marble. And we walked around, and then 2 weeks later, I get the phone call from American Airlines. And then I realized how transcendental Srila Prabhupada is. He made this promise. I thought it was, fantasy, and then Prabhupada fulfilled that promise. And Prabhupada did that to all of us. I look at my illustrious godbrothers and godsister, Latita Guna. We spent time together in the New York temple. She distributed so many books. Relentless, I can use that word. She was relentless in her desire and determination to serve Srila Prabhupada. Pancharatna Prabhu, so many things so many sacrifices. Jayadvaita Maharaj, endless. My admiration for him and all of his service. Vamanadev Prabhu, early days, dedicating his life to Srila Prabhupada, Adideva. It's kind of like, and forgive me for this analogy, it's kind of like a transcendental pizza. I heard this. What pizzas, does anyone here not like pizza? You all love pizza, right? Pizza is tasty. But pizza is made of many different ingredients, right? You put together the cheese, no pineapple. I can tell you right now, Italians will kill you if you try to put pineapple on their pizza. But, you know, the tomatoes, the mozzarella, the herbs, you could throw some olives on there, the flour, all of these nice ingredients. That's Prabhupada's disciples. They're all unique in their way. I mean, one of the reasons I stayed in Krishna consciousness was because Prabhupada's disciples. They were such cool people. Eccentric, okay, but cool. And I loved being in that association. And together, they make quite a tasty meal. Delicious. Nutritious. Just wonderful to be around. So I humbly beg you all, those of you that are younger, and to take advantage of that association. Because I said, ISKCON to me, this is Laxmi Nrsimha Das's definition of ISKCON, is Prabhupada's mood. And these great devotees, selfless servants of His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, they have taken on that mood in their own unique way, according to their own unique character. They've chosen their way of serving Srila Prabhupada's mission. Unlike Adideva and Vamanadev, and much to my wife's chagrin, I have no ability with my hands. I'm all thumbs. And they used their talents. Adideva was an art student, sculpture, and Vamanadev knew so many things about, you know, construction and all, and used those tangible talents in Prabhupada's service. And all of these devotees came to Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada engaged all of us. He engaged our heart. He engaged our words. And he engaged our body. What's that verse? No. It's from the 10th canto, 14th chapter, 8th verse. Tate nukampanam. Who knows the whole verse? Yeah. Say that again. Right. That's it. That extract. The heart, the words, and the body. That was Lord Brahma's recommendation. And Srila Prabhupada, we didn't know how to do that. Srila Prabhupada instructed us how to engage our heart by cultivating faith, our words by encouraging us to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and so many prayers and recitation of verses, and our body, to use our body in the service of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this Sankirtan mission. So this is the blessing that we've all had, and the blessing that you all have. Because Srila Prabhupada is so, his potency is so great. Who can tell me what unique thing that they noticed in the kirtan that was played from 1966? Can anyone, I want you to think contextually, in relationship to kirtan nowadays and in relationship to that kirtan, who can tell me what they noticed? Because I noticed it right away. Yeah, there were no instruments other than kartal. Prabhupada and kartals. And yet, hearts were transformed. Because a heart is not transformed by a guitar riff. It is transformed by pure sound vibration emanating from the lotus lips. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Aikya. So we are not limited in any way, shape, or form in the development of our Krishna consciousness. You can always be, even with yourself and a pair of kartals, doing ecstatic kirtan, wherever you are and whoever you're with. And if you do it with all sincerity and with the intention, the pure intention of glorifying Krishna, praising Krishna with all of your heart, it's transformative. And all of us who've been in Srila Prabhupada's kirtan, I remember in I think it was 75 in Atlanta, Prabhupada came. And this is another reference to what you said about what did you see when you first looked at Srila Prabhupada? Prabhupada came into the Atlantic Temple. I paid my obeisances. And I was right, the door was there, and I was right here. Prabhupada walked in. I was paying my obeisances, and I have to see Srila Prabhupada. And I looked up, and Prabhupada was standing right there. And I looked up, and I looked into Srila Prabhupada's eyes. And I did not see an old man. I saw a young eyes, dynamic eyes, compassionate eyes. And it was like, again, striking. So that just gives you a little taste of what it was to look into the face of a Mahabhagavata.
Laxmi Nrsimha Prabhu ki!
Sure.
An amazing series of stories we've heard tonight. We have one short video. We reached out to some of Prabhupada's disciples who are not in the area to see if they could come, and many of them couldn't. Health issues abound for many disciples of Srila Prabhupada at this point, illustrating what Prabhupada keeps telling us, what's going to happen with all of us, birth, old age, disease, etc. So His Holiness Satsvarup Goswami Maharaj was actually unable to do a video specifically for us, but we have gotten a video of him speaking about the early days. He was one of Prabhupada's first disciples, joined here at 2nd Avenue, wrote the Prabhupada Leelamrita, the definitive biography of Srila Prabhupada. So we'll hear from him here. This is about 10 or 15 minutes. Then some announcements and prashad.
Goswami, and I'm speaking on the occasion, the 50th anniversary of His Divine Grace, H.G. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada's beginning to preach at 26 2nd Avenue in 1966. I calculate this presentation will be first seen my audiences in June 2016, approximately around the time of the New York City Rath Yatra. 50 years ago from that time, Prabhupada was just beginning to enjoy his first experience of success in America since his arrival in September of 1965. Behind him now was the first experiment, the testing ground in Butler, Pennsylvania. Behind him now was the long winter, 1965-66, November, December, January, February, March, uptown at 72nd Street, Dr. Mishra. Those were difficult times. Prabhupada was not allowed to lecture by Dr. Mishra. Prabhupada wrote many letters to friends and contacts in India asking for financial help to build a Radha Krishna temple in New York City, but he received nothing but discouragement and rejection. That was behind him now. And behind him now was the slightly improved conditions of living in an artist's loft, where he had his first congregation of people who chanted with him. Those were musicians and artists who lived on the Lower East Side, who came for the music, not the philosophy. But this was in the worst neighborhood of America, Bowery, Skid Row, and Prabhupada dared to live there. That was behind him also, because through his Bowery congregation friends, they found him a better place on the Lower East Side at 22nd Avenue. And now he was located in the midst of the growing population of what would be known in a little while as the hippies of America. And Prabhupada preached great happiness and success. He quickly had a new core of followers after he moved to 22nd Avenue. I knew of 22nd Avenue for many months. It used to be a gift store. There was a sign above the window, matchless gifts. And I passed it every day, coming home from my work at the welfare office on 5th Street, going to my apartment, which was south of 22nd Avenue. I used to glance in the window at the gifts. One day I was walking by, and I noticed they had gone out of business. The place was deserted. There was a little piece of paper in the window, taped, and it said, "Classes in Bhagavad Gita, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 7 p.m. Transcendental sound vibration." So this was the new establishment. I was interested in the Gita, and the phrase transcendental sound vibration intrigued me. So I went the first night, and I never stopped coming. Another man, Howard, who later became Hayagriva, met Prabhupada alone on the street. He said to Prabhupada, "Are you from India?" Prabhupada smiled and said, "Yes, are you?" Howard said, "No, I'm American, but I just came back from India." And Prabhupada and he had a conversation, and Prabhupada took him to his new place, 22nd Avenue, and said, "Do you think this is a good location?" He said, "Yes, it seems to be good." He said, "Will you come and bring your friends?" And Howard said, "Yes." Howard lived on Mott Street in Chinatown with a group of roommates. And they were all interested in spiritual ideas. They later became devotees by the names of Kirtanananda, Umapati, and a friend who didn't live there but hung out there, Achyutananda. So Howard brought all these friends, and they became part of the new core. There were also a few of the Bowery congregation who came. Most of them dropped out and didn't make the transfer over to the Lower East Side. But a few came. One was Michael Grant, who found the place and who later became Mukunda, and also Carl Jurgens and James Green. These and a few others formed the new core, people who were interested in finding a guru and were serious seekers. There were a few others, as well as people who weren't so committed, who came to the evening programs. And some people came for the first time, repeatedly. I quickly became a core member myself. The condition of the storefront at this time was that it was bare. There were no pictures. There was no elevated seat for Swamiji. There were just two naked light bulbs hanging from the ceiling, and on the floor spread around thin straw oriental mats. So Swamiji sat on the same level as everybody else. People gathered before 7 o'clock, and Swamiji used to enter sharply at 7 p.m. My first impression of him was striking. He was certainly Indian, but he wasn't an ordinary man. He was a holy man dressed in saffron robes. It was summer and it was warm, and he didn't wear a shirt or kurta. He just wore a sannyas top piece that left his shoulder and chest bare. And he wore a dhoti, and his feet were in white pointy shoes. He was elderly, but he was very erect in his posture and wasn't feeble-looking. He was very healthy-looking. He had the Vaishnav tilak marks on his body. And he stepped out of his shoes and smiled to see Howard, who he met from the street, and said, "So you've brought your friends?" And Howard said, "Yes," in a loud voice. He asked us to sit, and he gave out hand symbols. Without any introductory speech, he began chanting. First, however, he showed us the beat to keep with the hand symbols. It was 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And he played, and we played after him. Then he chanted Sanskrit prayers for a few minutes, and then began the Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. He turned toward us and he said, "Chant." Only a few of us knew the chant, and we stumbled, trying to follow him in a chorus. But after a few rounds, we caught on, and we started a response, lead and response kirtan. It built up, and we got into it. Most of us, including myself, had taken LSD numerous times. We took it to expand our consciousness and to find God, or the absolute truth. It was not like in later years, when acid was taken just for kicks, At this time, the takers of LSD were seekers. There was a valor in our daring to do it despite it being forbidden. So we applied the same adventure seeking to trying this chanting. We wanted to see what we could get out of it. Swamiji knew that we had this wrong attitude. He had experienced it with his group on the Bowery, but he tolerated it and accepted it. He felt that eventually if people chanted, they'd get purified and come to an understanding of what the chant actually was. So he let us trip out on the chanting and welcomed our chanting. As we began, people gathered at the front door. There were some little Puerto Rican girls, and in the distance there was a dog barking, and trucks and cars were rumbling by on 2nd Avenue. So a boy got up to shut the door, but Swamiji said, "Keep the door open, they may come in." Actually, the outdoor noises became subdued by the kirtan. We went on for half an hour. He wasn't giving just a 5-minute sample. He was giving us the full experience. He was in his own inner ecstasy. His head was trembling slightly and moved back and forth. He kept his eyes closed, except sometimes he opened them to look out at us, and he led us in his deep voice. I went beyond boredom and explored the mantra. Most of us were acquainted with the Upanishads and the Gita, although we didn't understand them. But phrases occurred to us like negating illusion, transcending the mind. And I felt fantasies and visions and searched for it and the light and the absolute truth, like I used to on LSD. It was a far-out experience chanting with him. After half an hour, he stopped the kirtan, and the Lower East Side noise returned. He wanted the girls removed from the storefront, so someone asked them to leave. But they would be back because they lived on the street, the little Puerto Rican girls. And nearby there was a big dog chained up. Row, row, row. He couldn't be stopped. And a man was shouting from a window, "Get out of here! Get out of here!" Sometimes somebody would walk past the door and yell in, "What the hell is this?" We got disturbed. But Swami didn't. He tolerated it all. But as soon as he began talking, or rather, as soon as the music stopped, some of the audience got up and rudely left. And as soon as he uttered his first words, some more people left. They didn't want to hear the lecture. But his core group remained. He started lecturing on the Bhagavad Gita about Krishna and Arjuna on a battlefield. We stayed, despite the difficulty in understanding him. He had a heavy Bengali accent, and he used Sanskrit words, and the philosophy was all new to us. But we hung in there. On one of the first nights, into the open door came a Bowery bum. And we detected him immediately by his odor. He was reeking. And he whistled and shouted, "How are you? In a church? I'll be right back." Swamiji said to him, "Don't disturb. Sit down. We are talking seriously." And the man careened out the door. And Prabhupada went on with his lecture.
Yeah, we're going to stop it there for time considerations. His Holiness Satsuru Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai. Okay. You need 5 minutes? Yeah? Okay. They need 5 minutes. We're going to do kirtan. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I'd like to invite Laxmi Nrsimha Prabhu to come up and lead us in a very brief 5-minute kirtan.
Haribo, Haribo.
Should we do an old style? You want to stand up?
Yeah.
Let's do that. Hare Krishna. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirbishesha Shunyavadi Vastatradeshotarine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Gaura Premanande, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
All right, dear devotees, just have a few announcements. Thank you very much, Laxmi Nrsimha Prabhu. Thank you to all of the Prabhupada disciples that we heard from here. Thank you to the Prabhupada disciples who came tonight. We didn't hear from them. His Holiness Jadwaita Maharaj, thank you for being here. Maharaj will be back here on Friday to speak. So please come back to hear him. And thank you, Adi Purusha Prabhu, for coming today. Adi Purusha Prabhu will be back here on Sunday to speak. So we have great lineups coming up in the next few days. Janarani Devi will be here. Rameshwar Prabhu will be here. Yogeshwar Yadubar. Archita Prabhu, yes. Arundhati Mataji, and others. So please do come back. So just want to acknowledge a few people who've been volunteering to make these programs happen. Today, guest reception was Bhava Bhakti, Jaini Tai, Jamuna Jaya, Jagannath Gopal, and Ari. The garlands were made by Caroline Gilbert, I'm guessing? Lama. Prashadam was Raj Lakshmi, Amish, Bhima Pran, Amrit Krishna, Sannyasi Kripa, Dinamani. And this evening's festivities, Amish, Nupur, Rupa, Tatiana. Of course, Karan, who is overseeing all the coordination. The people serving prashadam, I don't know who you are, I love you. The people who are cleaning up afterwards, I don't know who you are, I love you more. And of course, our sponsors, our sponsors, Pritesh Jani, Grish Kumar Patel, and Vijendra Singh. Thank you so much for sponsoring the program tonight. A big, big thank you to Jani Thai Prabhu for coordinating this whole week of festivities. Hare Krishna. So once again, thank you for coming. Remember, your participation in the process, the practice of Bhakti Yoga, or even your interest in the practice of Bhakti Yoga honors Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much for showing up tonight and doing so. Prasadam is now served. Srila Prabhupada.